Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Broad Podcaster with me, Jennifer Fierro, located here in the Highland Lakes, and joining me, as always, Art Dlugach, the voice of the Llano Yellow Jackets. We're going to be talking some high school football since training camp started August 1st across the state of Texas for every program, no matter if it's a private school, public school, 11-man, or 6-man team. Art and I had a chance to go visit many of the schools that we cover. I know you got to drive over and see Llano, and I, of course, spent some time at Marble Falls Faith Academy in Burnet. I plan to go to Smoking for Jesus and see the two-time defending state champs of the TCAL Association. We'll get more into that with the Eagles going to a different association starting in 2022. Art, we didn't even get to talk about which school we wanted to start with.
Well, I would like to mention, and I'd love to see them play this year, Smoking for Jesus, located officially, I think, in Kingsland.
It is easier to get to because they're at the Boys Buckner Ranch, the old Boys Buckner Ranch.
Yes.
So I think it's an easier drive if you're coming in from Meadow Lakes, Marble Falls to hit 1431 and go that way, but they officially have a Burnet address.
Burnet, okay.
Even though they're closer, in my opinion, to Kingsland. Probably do the majority of their shopping in Kingsland.
Well, six-man football in general is exciting to watch, and Faith Academy and Smoking for Jesus, two fine teams. Faith Academy runner-up in state last year.
Yes,
and coached by Stephen Shipley. So if you get a chance on a Friday afternoon or night or Saturday afternoon, that would be worth your while if you're a sports fan at all. They just really have a bunch of fun out there, or it's at least fun for the fans watching 6-on-6.
Yeah, we'll get to do that. Right now, Smoking for Jesus is projected to have one Thursday night game against Bastrop Tribe later on in the season. So there will be an opportunity to watch them play. The one game that they are playing, you brought up Faith Academy, one game that I think many people in the Highland Lakes are intrigued by is the fact that the Flames will host the Eagles in week 2 or 3 in September, where I think that that's going to be a litmus test for the Eagles. I think they're going to view that as a measuring stick, much like the Texas Longhorns might be viewing the game against Alabama, to see how far they have come and or to see how far they need to go. Whereas Faith Academy has already been an established football program for
about 20 years.
Yeah, 2 decades. I don't know that the Flames feel that this game is as a litmus or as much of a litmus test, if you will, than the Eagles do. But again, I will find out all of that, and we'll report it at TexasChalkTalk.com. That's where you can find so much of your Highland Lakes sports news, including first-day reports from the 3 schools we've already mentioned, Marble Falls, Burnet, and Faith Academy.
I just think it's great about Smoking for Jesus and Faith Academy that they hopefully will establish this intra-Highland Lakes rivalry. I think that'd be great if they would, play every year.
Sure.
For sure.
And of course, it's in many ways it's like Burnet Marble Falls.
Yes.
No matter who gets to host the game, it always feels like an extra home game, no matter where that ball game is played. In that sense, it will be a lot of fun. I don't see Smoking for Jesus insisting on hosting because Britton Field with the artificial turf, the new track, the football stadium at Faith Academy, there's no comparison to what the Eagles have right now at their campus. So I do think if they continue to play, I think Faith will get to host for years to come.
Well, I don't think that's a huge problem. Certainly not a very long trip for the folks from Smoking for Jesus, but I just hope it continues into many decades after this.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and we will see things play out. I did get a chance to spend some time with Stephen Shipley. As Art mentioned, that football team was the state runner-up in Division II last year of the Texas Association of Private Parochial Schools. Right now, the Flames are reloading. According to Stephen Shipley, they lost 9 graduates from last year's team. 8 of those players were all-state players, but they have plenty of talent coming back to that team that really logged plenty of minutes last year. Of course, we will see how things play out for the Flames. They also have some new faces. A familiar one, Will Lewis is out there playing. He was a forward for the basketball team, playing for Zach Ravel. He has been out in the football field for the first time he is playing football for the Flames. That will be an interesting matchup because he's so tall. I could see them throwing more fade routes when they're inside the red zone.
I like that.
So we'll see what Will does. Of course, they've got a couple of kids that are looking at quarterback, a couple of kids that are looking at slot. You mentioned Stephen Shipley. His brother Bob is considered one of the godfathers of the spread in Texas high school football. He and Todd Dodge. So I know that Stephen loves the spread. But he also is committed to running the football when the opportunity arises and when he feels that there's a chance for the Flames to keep the chains moving. Of course, in 6-man, you got to get 15 yards to get a first down.
And the quarterback cannot run with the ball until he has lateraled it off, and then he gets it back.
Yes. So
some
that's
interesting rules there. Still 10-minute quarters.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, unless there's been a rule change from last year, I believe that is correct. And then it's an 80-yard field.
Yes.
So it's smaller in dimension than the 11-man. I believe 6-man football originated and was created in the state of Texas. I think that's right. I have to go back and check the history.
I can tell you this is about 80 yards. I was broadcasting the Flames playing their first state championship game in 01 or something like that, and it was at Crawford, the home of George Bush, President Bush, and they played on the high school field there, and it had not been adapted for 80 yards, and I was broadcasting. I want to tell you, that drove me crazy a little bit. And I mentioned that to one of the TAPS officials who was on hand, and he did not like my criticism.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, that was tough.
Yeah, if you're keeping stats, for sure,
right,
that plays havoc on your stats.
Yes, and it plays havoc when you're running from what amounts from the 10 to the 10 as the field instead of from the goal line to the goal line.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it will be an interesting reveal because, like I said, Smoking for Jesus is playing in an association called the Texas Association of Independent Athletic Organizations. So a lot of the teams that they will play, or some of the teams that they'll play this year, Faith Academy also is playing. I'm curious to see how this plays out and how they determine a state champion. Those are all questions I'll ask Coach Charles Frazier when I see him at his practice here in a few hours. And then we'll go from there. I do know with Smoking for Jesus, they lost some of their players who were instrumental in helping them play in 3 consecutive state championship games where they won 2 in a row. I don't think that they are on a full-on rebuild. They have their quarterback back. They have a lot of their players who are playmakers back. I do think the Eagles will be better than some people think. But I also think that that's true for a lot of the teams that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. Like I said, Art, the one thing that we did not talk about is which teams we were going to start with. I mentioned that because one of the teams that I feel is very intriguing in Burnet County is the team up north, and that's going to be the Burnet Bulldogs. You had mentioned something to me in passing that really made me go and look. You asked me for the Bulldogs record the last 4 years. 16-25 overall, 5-15 in district play, with 1 playoff appearance where the Bulldogs lost to Bernie High 38-7 in by-district. Of course, that was 2 of those years, two, maybe 3 were the K-Dry years. I want to say 2018 was Kirk Jones's last year as the head football coach and athletics director.
Super guy, and still there as AD?
Yes.
Yes.
Still
sure.
there as AD.
And his son is playing quarterback.
No, Grant is one of the starting receivers.
I'm
He's
sorry.
the backup quarterback. The quarterback for the Bulldogs is senior Tanner O'Hare. He is not the returning starter, although he did take several snaps last year. Brian Wood is headed into his his second year at the helm. I don't know why I said first. The thing that I say, and I still feel this way, I think Brian Wood very much wants to run the football more. Even though everybody says they want to be balanced, I honestly think they would like to run the football more. But he's got one obstacle in August that I was not counting on in late May. At that time in May, the Bulldogs were projecting to get 3 returning offensive starters back on the line. One of those starters decided to forego his senior year and commit completely to baseball. So that means that they're going to rely on some sophomores to fill in the starting lineup there on the line. I am curious to see how this will play out because, again, I honestly believe with Dash Denton as your running back, you're going to want to toss him the ball and let that offensive line really set the pace. It'll be interesting to see what they do, but I will say this. There is a sense of confidence in the passing game right now because Tanner has spent so much time developing great rapport with his receivers, including Grant Jones. I think the two of them probably have the greatest comfort level right now.
I think you mentioned, let me say this, that earlier, what you started with was they should be run heavy, you think. And
I think they should.
You know that it has surprised me in the last year or so that you hear that the run is somewhat making a comeback in high school football across Texas. I don't think it has overcome the spread yet for what most teams are doing, but for some reason, a lot of teams are running with the football, and it'll be interesting to see if you notice that in your area or from your favorite team. We'll get into Llano pretty soon, which has 2 fine running backs, I'll guarantee you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, that's the end of segment 1. We're going to come back and talk more high school football in segment 2. Jennifer Fierro, your broad podcaster here in the Highland Lakes, with Art Dlugach, the voice of the Llano Yellow Jackets. And remember to like, subscribe, and share the channel. We'll be right back.